Hello, beautiful soul, and welcome to the Little Reader's house, my house, where you currently are. I'm the Little Reader, also known as Amanda, and it's a pleasure and honor to have you and this gorgeous ball of look at all that you can see. Obsidian is what I was trying to get out there. There's the reflection of me in the camera viewfinder, which is a cell phone. Spoiler. And there's the ring light, and who knows what else you could see in this if you really stared at it for some time. Who knows? Anyway, Obsidian is our guest for the day, as are you. And I'm just delighted to have you here in the house. I've got the Lotus of Life, and we're going to pull a question out and allow Spirit to answer it, channel Spirit in, and bask in whatever comes through, beautiful soul. But how are you doing? How's your heart? How's your link to the realm of mind? How's your form, your body? Ooh, 2 fell out. 1 in my hand, 1 here. I feel like we should combine them. That's just the feeling. Okay. Question number 1. How do I make my dreams come true? How do I make my dreams come true? Is that focusing? Hey, focus. There we go. Not that anyone could read that writing anyway, but there it is. And number 2. Whoa. What happens after suicide? Okay. Whoop. What happens after suicide? We're going to answer both of these questions. That's what Spirit is saying. And somehow they're related, which is interesting, because my mind would really buck up against that. Not would, is. I sometimes wish you could hear the mental gyrations that go on in the Little Reader during these transmissions, but it's for the best that they don't. Just know that oftentimes there is resistance even as the message is coming through. It's fascinating. Fascinating for my psychologists. So, let's start with how do I make my dreams come true? How do I make my dreams come true? What a question. Very entrepreneurial, very... not just entrepreneurial, very courageous. So Spirit, please bring it in. There are no steps. There is no intellectual checklist. And Spirit says if we come to the question of how do I make my dreams come true with the seeking for a list of actionable items, a list of steps, Spirit says that is a comfort for the mind, but not a comfort for the heart. The heart doesn't need an answer to that question because the heart knows the way. So the heart is the leader of your dreams, holds the dreams, and holds the roadmap, if you will, to accomplishing, manifesting, materializing those dreams in the physical form, in the realm of form, or whatever those dreams are. Not all dreams are physical. Some are to feel certain emotions. So, Spirit says, in order to make all your dreams come true, learn to listen to your heart. It always gets back to the realm of heart around these parts. Truly build a practice, not around intellectualizing, visualizing. There is a shift in the new paradigm of consciousness that we've entered, beautiful soul, as a collective. If you're here, you're in it. And it's shifting away from manipulation and this projective approach of I must do, make, force. Even if there's no action, there's still all the mental machinations of visualizing and looking at pictures, and I'm just really pulling out my awareness and placing my awareness on the dream itself. In the new paradigm that we've shifted into, Spirit says it's not about creating a mental reality and then pushing our awareness with this projective energy into that mental reality. We have had a history of projective force energy in this world for the past thousands of years. It's all been yang. It's been, or that's also can be pronounced yan, or some would call that masculine energy or projective, like an arrow penetrating, which is wonderful. It's where we are. That's why we are where we are now. But we also know that there are some things that can be shifted. There are some ways that our current reality can be expanded, and that is why we've entered this new paradigm, which is much more receptive. So it doesn't require force, it doesn't require focus. It requires allowance and surrender, which, interestingly, from Spirit's perspective, I'm hearing is the greatest form of projective energy of all. And Spirit works in these paradoxes, so they boggle the mind. It's like, wait a second, how could being receptive be the highest form of being projective? How could being passive or surrendering be the highest form of achieving and conquering? But to surrender is the ultimate form of control, because it says that anything that happens in my reality, I own. Anything that happens in my reality, I receive, I make my own. That's the highest form of control of all. And control would typically be considered a projective sort of energy, to grab and to have and to hold. But receptive energy elevates it to the next level. It adds a new power and a new finesse to what we know as projective energy. And conversely, by perfecting and diving into receptive energy, we do the same. We add and learn more about that receptive energy, and we'll perfect it eventually by switching back over to the projective energy. There comes a time when we'll hold both in our hands in perfect balance, like the infinity loop. But first, we've got to let the pendulum swing and develop a relationship with receptivity. So all of that was to say, thank you for that download, Spirit, that the new way of making your dreams come true, and this phrasing here, how do I make my dreams come true? How do I make my dreams come true? According to Spirit, you sit down, zippy the lippy, closey the ojos, or eyes in English, and move all of your senses gently, gently, effortlessly, without force, to this beautiful center of your chest. Now, there is a link to Patreon, which has recently become, well, I think the option is free, potentially, if you want it to be. So you can find a 30-day guide in Patreon, link down below, without having to spend the coin. Or if you do have to spend the coin, I think it's like $1 to get in. But you can have 30 days of learning how to listen here, how to awaken that space. And once you've done 30 days, the truth is you can jet. You will know how to do it. It becomes a practice. You don't need guidance anymore. Maybe even after 2 or 3 days, you're in that place. But it can take some practice to get back. And I say get back because Spirit always reminds that it's remembrance. That is why awareness has chosen to be in human form, to elevate this aspect of third dimensional reality to its totality, to remember, yes, there is magic in here, infinite magic. That's where the awareness that animates the form came from, infinite magic. So it's here to remember that. Be seated. Be still. Learn to listen to your heart. And that's how you make all your dreams come true. Because what happens after you do that, after you devote yourself to it, because you may not even know what your dreams are. Some may not. Some of us get our dreams from our environment, because intellectually what we're witnessing around us is what others are doing. So we're like, okay, then my dream must come in that shape or size, that form. Sometimes when we tune into our heart, it's a shock because we're like, oh, I did not expect my dream to take that truth. But you realize it. You feel it. And when you dip your awareness into this wellspring, something very peculiar happens. Your energy increases. Your inspiration starts to bubble out of you. Suddenly you know what to do when it's time to do something. And you know how to stop and rest when that's what it's time for. And it's not intellectual. The more you dip your awareness into this space, like you learn in the Patreon, the more you shift power to this space. So the intellectual mind, which ultimately is just a conglomeration of patterns from the internal environment and the external environment, may spin and spin and spin, but there's this beautiful distance, this beautiful space between here and there. And suddenly this is in charge. And interestingly, the mind is always looking for a leader, beautiful soul. The mind respects a leader. So, when the heart is given permission to step up, the mind gets in line. Suddenly the mind, no matter how manic or depressed, anxious, obsessed, suddenly it's looking up to the heart. And that's how you make your dreams come true, beautiful soul. You make this your compass. In the new paradigm, it will never be a matter of steps, instant gratification. Like, just give me the information, please, so that I can understand it. Spirit says it's not about this understanding anymore. The mind has reached the level of understanding for you, beautiful soul, that it needs to be in to now activate the heart. That is why you're here. That is why you found my house. This is the heart house. So if you landed in this environment, it's spirit really grabbing you, center of the chest, and saying, please, wake this up. The rest will be self-guided. You'll never need, and I hate to say it, another course, another book, another Patreon link, another reading, another video. You won't, because once you wake this up, you've kicked off your legend. And you're always welcome to come back, even if it's just to say hi. But you won't need more answers. You won't need more knowledge. When this wakes up, so does an omnipotent remembrance, which evidently, according to Spirit, brings us to our next question. What happens after suicide? We've talked about remembrance. And I said that Spirit reminds me that this is all a remembrance. That was in today's transmission. In every previous transmission that's recorded on this channel, we've discussed, we've channeled in that everything about this moment is perfect. That it's only our mind's limited periphery, our mind's limited perspective that judges good from bad. And it does that on some very base primal levels because, again, the mind, what passes through it is the content in the form, largely. This is one environment. So this has ancestral trauma. It has childhood trauma, adolescent trauma, adult trauma. It has ancestral wisdom. It has all kinds of memories. Every organ is storing energies and memories. It's got the karmas, the dreams of those who came before you in your ancestral line, or those you were caretaken by. They don't even have to be genetically related. There's so much stored here that's creating the link to the realm of mind. But see, that's all predetermined, predestined. That's not something that can be controlled by the individual, no matter how much that has been preached, is the word that's coming out. Oh, Spirit. Getting me in trouble. That's all right. A little trouble's good. See, who am I to judge? I cannot. I can only transmit. So predestined are the impulses that raise up into the realm of mind. Predestined are the energetic codes stored in each cell, stored in the fascia, stored in the organs, stored in the many bodies just outside the physical form. Predestined. And in the past, it was thought of as an act of empowerment to tell individuals that they could shift what goes through their mind by changing their thoughts. But no individual can change their thoughts until they're ready. And that readiness is again determined by the greater picture, the bigger picture. The message that Spirit is asking me to vocalize is that there is no sin for this reason. Because all unconscious behavior is predestined, is a product of patterns, and all conscious behavior bears no destructive weight or constructive weight. Conscious behavior, which is the act of witnessing, any action that comes from that place is also in line with the greater picture. It is also with nature. It is also harmonious. So, what Spirit wants me to say at this juncture is that suicide is neither a mistake nor a sin. There will be another transmission about death. It's been requested. It will be added to the Lotus of Life. But also because death is the guarantee of life. And by receiving a transmission about the miracle of death, one can feel a deeper connection to the truth that resides in their heart already, which is that there is no death. There is only eternal life. The mind throws up, again, resistance. But, oh, little reader, how can it be? Oh, Amanda, blasphemy. How can you say it? Very easily, as a matter of fact. It is the mind that judges, the mind that blames, the mind that casts aspersions, the mind that determines right from wrong, and again, from a very base primal level. To learn more about the mind, check out our previous transmissions. After suicide comes death. Death is when the awareness that inhabits and encompasses this form and this link to the mental realm departs. The awareness that was here departs. This vehicle, this vessel, this earth ship, Gaia ship, is no longer inhabited by that awareness. This link to the realm of mind, for all practical intents and purposes, for the rest of us on earth, appears to be closed for the vessel that has passed. The heart, no longer beating. Interestingly, it was revealed in a past transmission that the heart knows the time of death. And the form and the realm of mind, while they may believe that they have control over that fact, death, do not. Again, time is not linear across all dimensions, only in this third dimension. But the awareness that resides inside of you, beautiful soul, touches all dimensions simultaneously. It's experiencing this dimension right now, but that changes all the time. And the more you dive into this realm, the realm of heart, as we discussed just a little bit ago, the more you'll realize that you can access those other dimensions at will. After death, the awareness that is shifted away from this form and away from this mental link and away from this heart, that awareness is free to travel. And that awareness, although commonly thought to be tied to the soul, linked to the soul and on to the next mission, is not necessarily so. That awareness can take on so many shapes. That awareness can take on any shape it wants. So let's break it down. Oh, we're going here. I'm scratching the nose and everything. I'm about to move. We're going here. Yeah, my left leg fell asleep, so I'm going to wake it back up. Spirit, hold me tight. The subject material. Lots of vibes come in. Okay. I lay my body down. Death. Amanda has died. Suddenly the remembrance strikes. the remembrance of all, the remembrance of my true identity as awareness. Now, you know me, beautiful soul, and I know you. But you know me. I have devoted a significant part of my energy in life to remembering my true identity as awareness. So, in laying the body down and then finding myself as awareness, the shock factor may be slightly reduced. Depends on the types of experiences that I've had. Now, those you may never know, beautiful soul, but I do. Allow me to say that there are certain experiences that you can have in this life, in this form as a 3D human being, animating this avatar. And in those experiences, you touch death, and you touch after death, and you touch things that are dead from our perception. It can give you a little premiere of what's to come, and it can also help you move through this third dimension with more equanimity and kindness and love. When I recognize myself as awareness, my next move will depend on what feels the most like love. That awareness may shift back into the totality of all awareness, dissolve any semblance of self completely. That awareness may hold on to the soul that you know as the little reader's soul. As we explored in a past transmission, the soul isn't a personality. The soul is a mission. The soul is a contract. The soul is a sliver of the whole. It's one color from the entire color spectrum. From the entire rainbow, it's one distinct thread of color. And that soul has the mission of going to some place in the universe and bringing the light of awareness into that place and bringing that spectrum, that ray of color. So for example, the little reader's soul color is aquamarine. A lot to go with that, but the mission is bringing love through the spoken word and through the heart, combining communication with infinite love. When I, as awareness, post-death, get into that state of realizing I'm the light, I have the ability to reflect on that soul color, the soul that you know as Amanda, and say, mission complete? Job done? Job not done? Yes or no? That is a Kobe Bryant reference. If you know, you know. Job done, job not done. And if the job can be done with even more love, then me as awareness will dive back into that soul color, dive back into that color, and paint it across whatever corner of the universe it can best be fulfilled in. If that's Earth, then perhaps that soul reemerges in some shape or form to bring that mission once again. To bring that spoken love, pulling love from the heart chakra and speaking it, transmitting that energy through the spoken word, through the voice, through communication, through song, whatever it may be. If the job is done, and that soul color, that's fulfilled, and that soul can now rest. And it's like saying rest as if the soul needs rest, but once we get outside of the third dimension, in most other upper dimensions, rest is not required for recharging or replenishing. We're one of the few remaining conscious dimension experiences where that's a thing. You have to rest to recharge. That's because so much of what we do here on Earth in the third dimension is depleting. It's draining. It causes suffering, immense suffering. But in dimensions where consciousness is awake and individuals are acting from a non-judgmental awareness, there's no depletion. So the need to rest is not a thing. So, Amanda, the little reader, is floating around. In this scenario that the soul contract is fulfilled, we let that color go. We could go anywhere, do anything, but we're going to follow the call of love. We may merge with the big bright light for what we call a time and then bounce back out of it. It's all kind of instantaneous on the other side. Time is much, much different there. In the event that the soul contract is not complete, there's more left to be done, which can even be known before the life starts. You can commit to a soul contract that spans many lives. Am I talking about reincarnation? Yes, I am, beautiful soul. Yes, I am. It's more nuanced in many ways than the common social understanding, but perhaps we can discuss that in another time. So, I may have this series of 10 lives with one soul, if you will. And if you were to look at all those lives, they would have a very similar essence, a similar theme, even a similar purpose, a similar flavor. If awareness goes into the great light post-death and doesn't want that flavor's completed, aquamarine is done, maybe it's time for citrine. Maybe this awareness chooses to bounce back into earth and bring with it a new color, a new flavor, something absolutely different. And then if you look at the next linear span of time for that soul, lives could have no seeming connection, no seeming correlation, no seemingly similar theme. But the question coming through here, or the element of it is there a punishment? Because in this scenario, what happens after suicide, the death was caused in a very distinct way. Spirit doesn't have a distinction. Spirit says that many minds would be shocked to discover how much of humanity at this time in this juncture in time, space, reality is committing suicide. It's slower. Spirit would take it even further. Okay, I'll do it. Spirit would say that most humans at this juncture in time, space, reality die via suicide. Not because they take a single action that ends their life, but because they take nearly every action in contradiction to their heart's calling. So if spirit were a mind and spirit were judging, which spirit's not, but for the purpose of intellectual understanding in this moment, spirit would say, you're all committing suicide. But spirit is no judge. So is there a punishment? No. There's nothing to be punished. Spirit gently reminds that all behaviors, all actions that are unconscious, meaning they don't come from this awakened place of non-judgmental awareness. So pretty much everything that we do all the time stems from patterns sewed so deeply into the form that there is no way of interrupting them. It's not a matter of willpower or mind over matter. Again, it can't be mind over matter. The mind is the byproduct of the matter. And those patterns that are erupting, that are causing individuals to choose in the direction of suffering and pain, are part of the journey to expanded consciousness. So there's no judgment there. And those individuals that do come into the remembrance, wow, say that 3 times fast, that come into the remembrance, we're going to try it one more time, 3rd time's a charm, that come into the remembrance that they are awareness. That is who you are, beautiful soul. And they really remember it, not just intellectually, but they spend so much time in this space that it's real. They wake up. They understand they're just a visitor here. They're a steward of this. They're a master of this. They're a resident of this. Those actions that come from that place are not judged either. So there is no judgment. How can there be punishment when there's nothing wrong? But the mind can't fathom a perspective that big. Some can, if they really sample the medicinal herbs. Or maybe not. Again, depends on the soul, depends on the form. Every single individual is different, but what Spirit wants you to know, beautiful soul, is that there is no punishment. And there is no judgment. So if the reason the little reader lays her body down is because she took her own life in a single action, or because she took her own life in a series of lengthy actions of denying and depriving herself of the call of this, when she comes into form as awareness, and the remembrance is whole once that body is laid down, she realizes, oh, that was how it was all meant to be anyway. That was the whole point. Well, guess I'm going back in. Bloop. Maybe. Or maybe not. There's so much more to say about death, beautiful soul. There is so much more to say about where an awareness can go after death, what it can become, how it may even choose to become everything, everywhere, all at once, every flower, every blade of grass, every puff of smoke, every noodle of macaroni and cheese, other inventions on other planets, other universes, a soul, what we call a soul, a mission, but a single awareness, a piece of the light, may choose to rejoin the entire light and be everything. There are so many options. But if you're wondering what happens after suicide, does the hammer come down? Do I gnash my teeth and wail because I chose to end my life? Spirit says, who's I? A pattern played out. Who could I punish for a pattern that I myself as Spirit initiated? You are the awareness itself. And when I talk to Spirit, beautiful soul, I'm talking to us. I'm talking to everyone who's ever been, everyone who will ever be. I'm talking to every object, animate, inanimate. I'm talking to everything. Spirit is all. And Spirit is the awareness, the same awareness that's animating me right now and animating you right now, beautiful soul. So when I talk to the divine, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to me. I'm talking to us. And it turns out that we, it, the great all that is and all that ever will be, is love itself. Its wholeness, its totality, its unity, its togetherness, its embrace. It is a giant hug. That is what Spirit wanted me to say. It is a giant hug. So, Whether you want to make your dreams come true, or you're wondering about suicide and the consequences of it, what I'm being asked to tell you today, and I can get behind this with every fiber of my being, is that you can't mess this thing up. This life is no disaster. Oh, it may feel like one, but it's perfectly created, perfectly ordained, perfectly scripted. And you are not this body, you're not this mind, and as much as we love this heart, you're not even that. You are the awareness that animates it. That is you, incorruptible, infinite, pure love, beautiful, can change at any moment. The wild card. That is you. And you are exactly where you're supposed to be. Right here, right now, looking at me looking at you. You're not just worthy of love, you are love. So if you think you're making a decision, in whatever direction that may be, whether it's the product of your patterning, the product of your suffering, or the product of waking up and remembering, it's divine. Because you can't ever be anything other than divine, no matter what this says. So, you're off to chase your dreams, beautiful soul. All I ask before you act is that you dive in here with gusto, even if it's just once. I'll meet you there. I'm sending you all the love I've got, beautiful soul. Always more, never less. And until we meet again, my sweet friend.